Wrestling Matt. Halfway through the week. What's going on? Happy to have you here. As we do every weekday here on the WrestlingMatchShow.com. It's right above Todd at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks to everybody who's always here with us. What's up to Mike? What's up to Phil? What's up to all the Matt members out there? It's up to everybody who subscribed. And hello, if you're joining us for the first time, maybe you found us this week. Good to have you aboard here on the Wrestling Mat, which comes to you every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe. Become a member at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Go check out what we have going on our community page, what's coming up here in the future on the show. Hello to Joe. Hello to Nerdy Dude. Good to see everybody talking to each other. That's what we got to do here. We're the most interactive pro wrestling show out there for a reason. It's because of all of you guys supporting and commenting and talking, commenting on past videos, commenting in the chat right now. Hey, we've seen a lot of them lately. You want to get your comment to the front of the line? You have something you really want us to talk about here? Make sure you get a super chat in, because if it's within the context of the conversation we're having, if it's a comment about that, I get to it right away. But it's something you maybe want us to get to later on. When I say us, the royal us. It's me. I am aware of that. I have people helping me, of course, put the show on the air. But if you want us to get to something, if you want me to get to something, and maybe it's something we're going to get into necessarily. We're going to talk about NXT. We're going to talk about AEW going maybe to Australia, obviously with Dynamite tonight. We're going to talk about kind of just the state of some of those things there we haven't talked about with AEW. But yeah, NXT, AEW talk's going to be the focus of today. However, if you'd like to get into more than that, or something that's maybe a little outside the box, or something you were thinking about, please let me know with a super chat. And if you've missed any past episodes from this week, well, you can go back and watch them along with all of our episodes, all of our interviews. Joe Hendry was on in recent weeks. We've had Matt Cardona on the show, Joey Janela on the show, Chef Reactions on the show. Chef's been busy. I know we were going to do more with him. He's been a very busy man, though. I think he'll be in Minnesota throwing out a first pitch this weekend. But if you want to go back and watch those past interviews, what would you have missed this week if you're just joining us today? Well, on Monday, it turned into really a celebration of Kevin Owens and my personal experience with him as a fan, as someone who saw his indie career, someone who met him right before he started with WWE, and then someone who got to work with him in WWE in a variety of ways. We celebrated 10 years of Kevin Owens, and I shared some really fun personal stories and my experiences with someone who I think is one of the good guys in the business. That was on Monday's episode of the Wrestling Mat, the live edition at 1 p.m. Eastern. Yesterday, we broke down all things Monday Night Raw. We covered all of it there, and massive rating for Monday Night Raw. Over 1.8 million watched that show. Best rating on USA Network since April, and a follow-up, as I kind of expected, to a great rating they did on Sci-Fi the week before. But Olympics are over. Sports are kind of quiet right now outside of baseball for the most part. Yes, football will be ramping up very soon, which I'm sure every company is thinking about. More so probably WWE than AEW based on, when the shows are on. And we'll get into some AEW comments from Tony Khan coming up here. But all of it is there for you, and a whole lot more coming your way. Talked about how Roman Reigns, John Cena, and Cody Rhodes are and have been presented as different types of baby faces, what that means. I talked a lot about what merch means to WWE wrestlers and how the merch business as a whole has changed over the last 10, 15 years or so, even before that. Last probably, the evolution of merch and what it means to different wrestlers. Those segments and more available at thewrestlingmatchshow.com on our shorts, and you can follow us on social media at WrestlingMat23 if you're not doing so already. And follow me at the Matt Camp. Love to get your thoughts on everything going on there. But yes, if you'd like to become a bigger part of the show right now live, get those super chats in. They go a very, very long way, and we appreciate that support. You can also support by becoming a member. It's down below. You guys know that. Hit that join button. For those that are members already, we thank you. Some of the members are here today. I see Phil in here today. I see Nerdy Dude in here today. But if you would like to become a member, make sure you go check out thewrestlingmatchshow.com, hit the join button, and Dom, if we could show them the beautiful graphic, there it is, the base level right above Todd, $2.99 a month. You get those loyalty badges, the custom emoji. Somebody are using them today. The members-only live chats, more on that in just a second. A few more things there. The Matt Camper level, everything you get from right above Todd. You get member shout-outs, member-only videos. Stay tuned for that in a second. I have an information on that. Random episodes of Raw, SmackDown, and Dynamite. We watched Raw this week. If you were a Matt Camper or Matt Event level member, you watched Raw with us this past Monday. And if you missed that, well, we'll be doing that again next month. In the Matt Event, everything you see in the first two boxes, the Right Above Todd and the Matt Camper level, we'll connect with you on social media. We'll follow you from both my account and Wrestling Matt 23. We're setting up those private Zooms and those special watch-alongs. We are talking about what's going to be our private past event that will be coming up shortly, leaning towards a certain Raw from a certain European country from the 90s, indeed. And listen, Nerdy Dude just gifted out 5 Wrestling Mat subscriptions. He's given out plenty of them, and if you're in the YouTube chat, well, you know you now have a shot to get one. But we appreciate that. Nerdy Dude, who's been a member from the jump, was with us for the Raw watch-along on Monday, and now wants others to be part of the WrestlingMatchShow.com and to become a member. So he just gifted out 5 memberships, and Nerdy Dude, we appreciate you. Certainly at the top of the list of the Matt members for everything you've done, supporting the show, and now allowing others to jump aboard. So very cool there. You can see the community that we have here. That's been going on a lot. I love the back and forth. I love the discourse. We keep it, doesn't necessarily have to, I'm going to say friendly. It doesn't have to be always friendly. It can be constructive. It can be back and forth. We can have differing opinions. That's all good. Corey Pritchard, there you go. You're taken care of. I love it. Love to see that there. But we love to have the back and forth. Just keep it nice. Just keep it nice. That's what we want to do. But like I said, as you're watching the show live, if you're watching live, Super Chats get you to the front of the line. Get your questions, get your thoughts heard, maybe drive the conversation in a certain way. So if you're thinking about something as we're talking about it and want to comment and make sure it gets out there, you can certainly do that. Or if you want us to discuss something that maybe I haven't talked about very much, maybe something off the beaten path, you can certainly do that as well. Super Chats are a great way to support the show. So let's get into it here. Let's get into it. Now, a couple things I said with the membership before I get too far. First of all, 2 announcements. I've made one of these already. I'm going to reiterate it, though. August 26th, right after the live episode at 1 p.m. Eastern of the Wrestling Mat. Right after that, the members only Ask Me Anything will be happening. So you can join us. Anybody can join us live for that 1 Eastern episode on August 26th. That's a Monday. But if you are a Matt member, after the show's over, we are doing an Ask Me Anything, and everything is on the table. So there's another reason to become a Matt member. That is coming your way on August 26th. And here is some bonus content coming in the Matt Camper and Matt Event levels. Coming out very soon, my top 5 John Cena matches. Yes, our conversation yesterday, which once again, as I said yesterday, sometimes I get ideas from your comments, whether they be live in the chat, whether they be in the videos that go up after the fact. But you guys kind of drive conversation. People were talking about yesterday, and I don't know if it was Nerdy Dude or I'm not sure who it was. Great community makes this kind of stuff happen, but it was about what does John Cena's retirement look like, not from the touring standpoint, because we talked about that a little bit, who could be involved in the matches, who should be involved. We then ended up having a discussion of what John Cena's Hall of Fame would look like. And I am of the belief that John Cena would certainly be in a very small group of people that might deserve his own Hall of Fame night. I thought Undertaker might get it. Didn't happen. No one else has really gotten that. I think, Andre the Giant's the first inductee into the Hall of Fame. But I'm talking about John Cena getting the lone induction. I don't think it would be 2025. I think it would be 2026. And we kind of put together, who would be involved and who would be smart to speak in that. And I got me thinking, and yesterday I already recorded this. It's ready to go for you guys. It'll be coming out for Matt members soon. But my top 5 John Cena matches, a very hard list to get down to 5. Very, very hard to get it down to 5. But that will be coming your way soon if you are a Matt member level, at the Matt Camper level, or the Matt event. So stay tuned to that. And if you want to see that, you want to catch it soon, then become a Matt member, because it will be going up very soon. And we have past bonus pieces of content that are there for you as well. My top 5 SummerSlam main events, my worst 5 SummerSlam main events, and a lot more bonus content coming your way. Promised it would be the case as the subscriber number continues to go up, and it does, and we thank you for that. We thank you for sharing and subscribing and commenting. But let's get into it. A lot of stuff covered there for what's going on with the show. But what happened yesterday. Let's get into NXT here from last night. I'm not going to cover the whole show because stuff is certainly more newsworthy than others, more honestly interesting than others as they move towards that CW debut in just a couple of months, about a little over 2 months away now. The opening with Wes Lee walking and Sarah trying to talk to him, and then Ethan Page shows up with his own mic flag. Let me change that for you. He takes it. He blows her off. Sarah was great at reacting to that because Sarah's a nice, wonderful person. And how dare you take the mic away from Sarah Schreiber? And Ethan walks right out as you're seeing, and I don't know this for sure. I would guess the conversations have been had, but I know that when Lee Fitting took over for Kevin Dunn, and, head of all production, that kind of role. He couldn't take on everything at once. He was taking a look at, all right, here's what Raw looks like. Here's what SmackDown looks like. Here's what the pre-shows look like. Here's what this looks like. And as we've seen now, because that goes back to what, January. As we have seen, those changes have been implemented in different graphics on Raw and the stats and the tracking shots and the Raw physics that they did this week. You're seeing all that stuff start to get integrated. And I think NXT, kind of got that a little bit after Raw and SmackDown, which happens. You just priority levels. That's where we're going. And we're seeing more of it on NXT. And we saw Ethan Page have that shot where he took the mic from Sarah and kept walking and went right into his entrance. But what ended up happening was you started with Wes Lee to Ethan Page to Joe Hendry back to Wes Lee. I mean, there was connective tissue the whole way around. And I love that the fact that there isn't as much just tunnel vision and everything is so, well, this feud is here. So when that stops, you can go to this feud. And that stuff. It's not as natural. It comes off too much like a show, which it is, and I get that. But the backstage area being a living, breathing environment, and that's on Raw, that's on SmackDown, that's on NXT. I like that. It never made sense to clear out the area. Vince used to have this rule, right? I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before. Vince used to have this rule where the reason you see two backstage correspondents, Jackie and Kathy, although Byron has been by himself, they haven't replaced Kayla on SmackDown. There was this rule of, well, you can't be two places at once. How could they get interviews that fast back to back? So, there was that, but at the same time, you would see very little interaction backstage. You wouldn't see stuff in the background. They would clear the set kind of thing. And now the backstage, a living, breathing area where, there's 30, 40, 50 wrestlers, whatever the number there is, and production and backstage and things going on. That should all matter. That should all live. That should all be a thing. And you should see things going on in the background, or you should see people interact even though they're not in the same storylines. Randy having a little interaction with Miz and Truth. Well, that promoted Miz and Bronson Reed, but it also got Randy on screen, and hey, there's Randy Orton. And then Randy came out for Gunther. And then Randy and Gunther went back and forth. And then Drew came out, but then Punk came out, and everything got connected. And now you're maximizing your minutes. I talked a lot about how those premium live events, those pay-per-view, the downtime with the commercials and all, man, it's a lot. I am seeing them fill up time better. If you can fill up 3 hours and give people something more to sink their teeth into, and it's never going to be perfect and it's never going to be great across the board. You hope it is. You hope a good Raw should be, to me, 75% great. That's a really good show. Not everything's going to hit. Not everything's main event level. Some stuff hits better than others. Some stuff doesn't hit as well. Some stuff is, some storylines don't get as much highlight on a weekly basis. Think about the Wyatt Six. We saw the Bo thing, the Howdy, whatever you want to call it. That was it, though, this week. Consistently still on the show, but not as big as much as we saw the week prior with American Made and the vignettes throughout and it being in and that's okay. That's okay. Chad Gable took that story a little further with his video from, it said Paris, it was Madrid. fulfilling or filling the time without as many breaks, filling the time with a better flow. I think that's what there's a connective tissue that runs throughout the show. There are threads, there are main characters, but that connective tissue that makes the show flow better, that leads you into segments as opposed to, we'll be right back because this is happening. And that's going to happen. It's a show with commercials and advertisements, and it's on cable television, it's on network television, and it'll be on Netflix, which is maybe even more of a reason to get that flow where you want it, because I don't know what they're going to do with commercials. I don't think there would be as many, but I have no idea. And it's not everybody seeing Raw on Netflix, so you still kind of have to have some kind of breaks there. But if there's way to make the show flow better and lead segments into each other kind of naturally, we've seen that more on Raw and SmackDown, and I thought that's how NXT opened last night. Ethan Page, to me, as a character, stands out head and shoulders really above just about anybody in NXT. There is a command of the microphone that he has. There is a command of the camera that he has. That is a man that is supremely confident in his skills. And that's going to stand out more at a place that I always try to remind everybody, even though it's on 2 hours, USA Network, every single week, it is still a show that is developmental. And when an Ethan Page, with the experience that he has, is able to stand out like that, you see, hey, this guy's been doing it for a while. He knows exactly who he is. He probably doesn't need a lot of coaching. He gets it, and he'll listen because he's smart. Joe Hendry was on the show talking about what he's learned. Joe Hendry's very comfortable and confident who he is, but Ethan Page conducts himself at a level that seems to be just above everybody else. And that's why he's NXT champion. And that's why that makes sense to me. He's a solid worker. I don't think he's going to blow the roof off of any place with his matches. But he is someone who has a confidence that can carry a segment like that. That doesn't need a lot of help. One weird thing, his nameplate looks like, I don't know if like Dragunov used it or they used it for that graphic. It seems similar to a SummerSlam. It seems like they've used it before. It looks a little... It doesn't quite fit him because it looks like other things. It looks like weird propaganda or something like that. It's not the biggest deal. It just looks like it's been reused. But once again, coming out, cutting a promo, Corey just said Ethan Page looked like a main roster star last night, in my opinion. Such a command of everything. I think he could have cut that promo in front of a 15,000-person Raw crowd last night or SmackDown. That is, you get that from reps. I talk about reps all the time when it comes to NXT. You get that from doing it. Ethan also has run his own company, run his own promotion. And all of that builds confidence, builds reps, shows the comfort level he has. Pretty much everybody else there is going through some kind of developmental to pick up on those skills. And I want to get back to that because it comes up later on in not so good of a way. Joe comes out. Now, it looked like last week, based on what they did, that Pete Dunne was next in line for Ethan Page. And they still might be going in that direction. But Joe Hendry comes out a week after saying he's going to stay around. And he has his own mic flag. Now, all I will say is I don't want to see any more than that because then it doesn't become special. I get Joe having his. I get Ethan Page having his. And maybe that was Ethan going, why does Joe have one? I should have one too. Without saying it, he said it. Not everyone needs to have their own mic flag. That box thing that goes on the mic. But I was okay with those two having it. And Joe made reference to the same thing I did, which I'm sure was intentional. Yeah, people, you are the NXT champion. You are great. But the excitement about you being champion lasted about 15 seconds because I was the one who closed the show that night. My face was seen. And he's 100% right. And look what's happened since then. People are still talking about him. More than anybody else in NXT. Joe Hendry is the most talked about person in TNA and NXT right now. And that's why I threw out that question, because Joe wants the NXT title. And why wouldn't he want the NXT title? And Ethan Page was like, of course you would. That's just logic. Everybody should want to be the man or the woman. You should want the top championship in your division. As soon as Joe said it, though, the We Believe chant started. People are with Joe Hendry. And I think you're dealing with something. Is it just lightning in a bottle? Not just lightning in a bottle. Is it lightning in a bottle that we have to take advantage of, or is this a flash in the pan? And there's really only one way to know, is you push and you go with it. And Ethan made reference. I think you're on minute 14 of your 15 minutes. And that might be the case. I don't think it is. That might be the case, though. But if Joe Hendry is that popular, you got to go with that. And I'm not saying, and we'll get to this, he's going to face Ethan Page at No Mercy for the NXT Championship. I'm not saying that. But you got to have him in the mix. You got to have him up there. You got to push him accordingly. And as I've said, pushes are not about titles necessarily. They're about consistently being shown on television in a constructive way, in a consistent way, and in a way where people can get behind the character. Whether they're supposed to boo them, whether you want them to be cheered, you want them to be part of the show on a regular basis. Those are what pushes really are. You can win titles and it doesn't go anywhere. Alba and Isla are the women's tag team champions. They're not getting pushed. We don't know much about them. They won the titles like the week they got added to the match. They're champions. I don't think anybody really cares about those titles. I think people would like those titles to matter more, but the company is not putting a ton of effort into those titles. And when they do, it doesn't seem to last. Joe Hendry is getting a push. He should be getting a push. Now, in the segment, Joe gets the music going. Ethan's begging it. I can't hear this. The old school. I don't want to hear it. I got to get out of there. And that's good. And then Wes Lee comes in and attacks Joe Hendry. Because he wants to be champion. But he didn't say that yet. That's what I liked. As opposed to going, well he wouldn't come out yet because he didn't talk yet. He didn't tell the people why he did what he did to the Rascals. Well, how about he hints at it a little bit? How about he takes out Joe Hendry because he wants the NXT Championship and Joe's in his way? You're not stepping over me. Actually, I thought it hinted at all the things he said later on. That's very good booking. That's excellent writing. Wes still hasn't, Vic, whatever his pre-written line was, he still hasn't explained it. We are our own explanation, all that stuff. Well, hold on. We'll get to that, but it's clear that he ain't going to let somebody step over him. And then later on, we would find out a little bit more and why that made sense. It made very logical sense of you're not stepping over me. You're in TNA. You've been here for a cup of coffee. I'm Wes Lee. I had the greatest North American Championship reign of all time, and I want more. Once again, not tunnel vision. You think he's dealing with the Rascals? He will be, but he's dealing with even more than that. And let's get into Wes Lee. Basically tells the history of MSK, wanting to break out of that tag mold. I'm not just a tag team wrestler. And that is, and I'll raise my hand on that too. I thought Wes, while clearly to me was going to be the breakout star of MSK, I thought he would have to work his way through the tag ranks for a little bit longer, probably get called up as a tag wrestler. He's not that big of a guy. You got to make sure you present that in the right way. And I'm not saying he can't be, but he was basically talking about that. And then he talked about being a caretaker. And he said, I'm done caring about what you say or do. And I tried to keep us together. And what he was doing there was calling out the issues that led to me, without going into detail being specific. Wentz got let go because a picture of him resurfaced from a decade ago that got him canceled. I don't have to go into detail about that. It's been seen. It's not a good picture. It's a bad look. But I thought that they tried to tie that together in a pretty good way of, hey, we're kind of acknowledging that mistake that you made that got you let go. But we're going to frame it as I had to always look out for you. I had to make sure you were there on time. And that could be Wes, as we've said with heels. Hints of truth, but really, was he the caretaker? He's presenting himself as such. He's presenting himself as the caretaker of MSK, the caretaker of the Rascals, someone who was the more responsible one. And why? Because he wanted greater things. He wanted bigger things. And he says the Rascals only came back, not for him, but for WWE. Which was an interesting thing there because he's talking about the spotlight of WWE, which everybody knows is the biggest company in the world. And he said, hey, we're probably going to have a match at some point. That's probably going to happen. Maybe it'll happen at No Mercy. The crowd, I didn't think, for a guy that they used to love, and you would think would then want to boo because he turned his back on his friends. He turned his back on the fans, kind of, by breaking them up, by killing that reunion before it really got going. I didn't think they booed the way I think you would hope that promo would have gotten across. I don't think they were into it as much. Wes has got a lot of talent. I still think promos, and we saw it last night, I thought the words were good. I thought the idea was good. The delivery was okay. But he said, I'm going to show you no mercy, dog, when we face blah, blah, blah. Then he made a point at the end. And he said, you can go back to TNA. And it was so disingenuous the way he said it. You can go back to TNA and have a wonderful career as a TNA wrestler. I'll aspire to bigger and better things like the NXT Championship. On behalf of WWE superstar Wes Lee, I wish you the best in all your future endeavors. He's a heel. I get that. But that kind of shit on TNA. Everybody knows that WWE is the biggest company. I have said, and history backs me up on this, that WWE in these business partnerships is always going to look out for WWE first and foremost, and they are almost every single time going to get the most out of the partnerships. Yes, TNA is getting some exposure. But the level of who's shown up on both shows is not even. And I don't think it will ever be even. And maybe TNA's happy with that, and I understand that too. But I thought it kind of crapped on TNA, and I thought he said the quiet part out loud. This is the big leagues. You're in the minors. I'm not saying it's the minors. I'm just saying it's not at the level of WWE. We know that. That's fine. But when you're trying to, hey, it's Joe Hendry from TNA, you shouldn't knock the company you're working with. I get his point. I just thought it wasn't the best line for the working relationship. And yes, WWE is the bigger and better. I understand all that. But I think it hurts the perception of TNA even more so. It was an uphill battle, and people have been excited about that. I've said that. Just the idea of companies working together, I think, has now proven to be a draw. Whether it be the $1 million house that AEW drew for Forbidden Door, when the majority of those matches were built within the frame of AEW for the most part. Yes, we saw other international talent, but this year's Forbidden Door was really about AEW. And I say that in a good way. The WWE TNA partnership is one that people are excited about because it's just, hey, wow, two companies, two of the top three companies in the world, if you want to say, or at least in North America, are working together. That's exciting. You say something like that, and it takes TNA down a notch, quite over the top in the way he did it. You don't want to crap on the other company, especially if he's going to pop up there or whatever. We know they're lesser. It's just a fact. I don't think you have to be like, well, you can go back over there. Well, then what about the NXT wrestlers that are showing up over there? That kind of craps on that idea. That's all. But then Pete comes in. Pete Dunne going, hold on. Don't be talking about the NXT Championship. I'm next in line for that title. I think I've made that clear. But Joe Hendry comes out and goes after Wes. Does he come out and talk to him? No. He beats him up from behind because that's what happened, and those three get a pull apart. Now, I'm going to guess that's a triple threat match. And I would guess that Wes is not going to win that because he will probably get Zachary Wentz. It could be Pete. It could be Joe Hendry. We will see. But once again, connective tissue, good flow. Wes to start the show, into Ethan, to Joe, back to Wes. Wes back out later. Gets his main story, because he's clearly in multiple stories, whether it be the stuff with the Rascals or the stuff with the NXT Championship. Gets Joe back involved, gets Pete involved, and all of a sudden, you have the NXT Championship as a story. You have what's going on with the Rascals and with Wes Lee as a story. You have Joe Hendry in the middle of it. You have Pete Dunne in the middle of it. You've now brought in 6 people, all kind of hovering around each other for some reason. All 3 of the Rascals, or Wes being out of it, Ethan Page, Joe Hendry, and Pete Dunne. And we didn't even see Trick last night. So there's that. That's a good job of connecting things. It's like why I liked that Miz faced Bronson Reed. Miz is going through his own stuff. Bronson Reed's trying to show, hey, give me people so I could beat them up. He beats Miz, then he beats up Truth. That's still 2 stories. They connected for a night, and now they'll probably go on their way. Or will Miz be pissed and want to go after Bronson Reed? Or does Bronson continue his path to destruction with others? It's good connection. It's getting the most out of the hours. 3 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Friday. That's impressive. That's good writing. Wouldn't have happened a couple years ago. The No Mercy Gauntlet Eliminator was announced in 2 segments. 2 painstakingly, terribly acted segments. And it is the one thing about NXT that is on full display each and every week. I am going to say, yes, it's developmental, but good God, the acting sometimes, when it is bad, it is awful. And all of those people that were around that table pretending to care, and is that my... It doesn't come across as natural. Everything feels like high school. Not everything. A lot of the things on NXT feel like high school. Then you have Tony D'Angelo and the crew, killing people or whatever, throwing them in trunks. But for the most part, it feels very high schooly, especially when it comes to the women. And then like the horny dudes. Because that always seems to be like every couple months it's like, oh, they're all trying to hit on each other again. But they are featuring this women's division. They are making a point to do that. And they're getting them reps. And some are better than others. And that's good. I do think that they are using what developmental is the right way as it relates to the women. I don't have to call them the best women's division in wrestling because it's not. They have the most. They feature the most. It doesn't make it the best if they're still learning. And you know what? There's a lot of talent in there. So they do the 2 segments. Ren Sinclair, who I'm going to talk about. Rizzo, Soul, Jada, Kendall Gray, and Carmen. Good stuff in terms of who's going to be in the match. I've told the story on here about Sol Ruca and being there for the debut of the Soul Snatcher and calling it on commentary. Great look, big fan. She has a ways to go with her promos. And that's learning. Look, that's fine. That's okay. It's the most important thing to learn. She's figuring things out in the ring, and you saw her and Kalani Jordan have basically Ospreay versus Ricochet in 2024 or a version of that, and people will absolutely be drawn to that. Make no mistake about it. There are people that will just see that. So this goes back to my argument about speed being put together the wrong way. There are going to be people that see the unbelievable athleticism and the moves of, beautiful women and dudes who look like they are chiseled out of granite and can do different things. That stuff, when you're flipping through your phone, is going to stand out. That's not a psychology thing. And character stuff will stand out too. But that stuff is the evolution of wrestling. That stuff will stand out. It's finding the mix of that stuff and the character stuff, and you put that together and boom. You really have something. Sol Ruca is figuring that out. I do think there's, that's just someone you want to keep molding and keep working with and keep getting better. Jada Parker, I needed some time. I'm sold there. Very confident on camera. Maybe had the best reaction of anybody that got picked. Hell yeah, I'm going to whoop their ass. Let's go. And then the second segment around when Carmen walks off and they're talking to whoever it was, admittedly, a lot of those kind of run together. But then they had remember the SummerSlam tryout? That was so fun 2 years ago. And then whoever it was, Izzy Dame or whatever, walks off. I hated you at the SummerSlam tryout. It just walks off. They don't fight. It was very much like, I'm going to homeroom now. And slam a locker. I was waiting for them to just be holding a couple of books and a notebook because they're going to fourth period. That's what that came across. That was, I get it. You want to have interaction, but that stuff misses the mark. That falls short. Still learning. The Gauntlet Eliminator Tumblr deal happened after Tony D'Angelo made his entrance. And the Heritage Cup was about to start. So Ren was there, and then she ran out, which I appreciated the continuity of that. The crowd was pretty for that match. For Charlie Dempsey's style, the format of the Heritage Cup with the rounds, they were just kind of there. But then Ren, who ran out after she got picked, is, slapping Charlie and making it. And all of a sudden I go oh, she's exactly what that group needs. She's exactly what this show needs. Ren Sinclair costing Tony, being a shit stirrer, being the straw that stirs the drink, being interesting, being funny. None of her stuff seems acted. She's very natural. For those that, and I've seen some people, bring her up, Maddie Rinkowski, all that stuff. She did kind of our Kardashians thing in that vein on the indies, and they did some stuff for AEW, and then I think she had a torn ACL. And when they signed her, I was like, oh, good, she's got something. And you can see right away that she stands out for everybody else because she's done it, and she's done character work on her own. Hell of an example for indie wrestlers out there. She fleshed out who she was going to be, who she was supposed to be. She'd cut promos. She would do segments on her social media. I saw this as someone who was working in WWE at the time going I don't know who that is, but you would see her pop up a little bit more. I knew she had the one-legged, gear. I knew she had done some like AEW darks and stuff like that. But then you look into it and go, oh, okay, this is not somebody who's just there. She's putting effort in. She's trying to get herself over. She's trying to make herself interesting. She's fleshing out her character. And those were also reps. And those reps are now coming to success on NXT. And she should be on TV. And she should get talking segments because she comes across as a natural. She's engaging. She's funny. When you are like that, it puts you so head and shoulders above the rest of what we saw standing around that table waiting for the tumbler to go. It didn't seem forced. She never seems forced. And she was in multiple segments and has been. Why? Because she can carry those segments. Because she's a good contributor to those segments. She moves stories along. That gets you called up. Great wrestling's good. She can work. But I want to hear from her. I want to know what she's doing. I'm engaged by her character. She makes other people around her more interesting. She's doing that with No Quarter Catch Crew. She became the focal point of the Heritage Cup match. Not that Tony D lost, and I think you can see why Tony D lost. But Ren is doing a great job because she is making the most of the opportunities. And because she's continuing to get the opportunities. And that is what you call a push. Some pushes are bigger than others. But she's getting one right now. Because she should be. Let's go to Oba and Otis. Back to Tony for a second. They try to get words from the family. You lost. What happens? Oba walks in his way. Again, it happened last week. It's happened before. They've interrupted each other. We're getting Tony D and Oba for the North American Championship. Getting the Heritage Cup off of Tony, which I think is a wasted championship, trophy, title, whatever anyway. That was done to get him to Oba. That's very clear. And that's a big match. That is, in the scape of NXT, that's a big match. Oba and Otis was okay. I was a little disappointed. I was underwhelmed. It was slower than I would have liked. And I realized, hey, two big guys, it's not going to be fast-paced. I thought they would be throwing bombs a little bit more. That would be a little bit more engaging. The crowd really wasn't there for the first half of the match. But here's where character work comes into play. Back and forth. Each guy has gotten it a little bit. More Oba. Oba goes to the outside with Otis. Tozawa gets on the apron. Oba. Big chop to the chest. What happens? It wakes up Otis. And now the character of Otis gets the people into the match, not the wrestler. The wrestler was just having a back and forth with Oba. Not a lot of crowd reaction. Not a lot of playing to the crowd there. Now, you took down his boy. You know they're close to Otis fired up. And the crowd picked up as soon as that happened. That was the turning point in the match. And then Otis gets into his comeback, and he's going. And they kind of ended it out of nowhere. Because Otis is in the corner. He gets cut off by the big power bomb, which looks like the kind of stuff you'd expect to see between Oba and Otis. Boom. And because of that, Oba looks like a monster, doesn't hurt Otis at all, and you had a big finish that the crowd came up for because it looked awesome. You powerbomb Otis from the top rope, it looks good. The match was fine. Oba still needs the reps. That's okay. I'll go quickly here on Lola and Tatum and Kelani and Wendy. Kelani, another one. The work's clearly there in the ring. She's getting better. I am a believer that when you get that opportunity to be with the announce team, they're there, hopefully, to set you up, to put you on a pedestal. I don't think she nailed it. That's a pretty good barometer where you're at in terms of promos and talking ability. She said a lot of, she just did a lot of baby face. Oh, I can't wait to, I'm going to face her down the line. Can't wait to meet her again. Like that. There wasn't a lot of bite to her words. You got to have a little bite, especially in this day and age. Every baby face can't just be everything's great. I'm a babyface, and the world's no. It's tough. It's tough out there. It's tough in WWE. You got to have your head on a swivel. And maybe that was kind of the point, to be fair. That Kalani might be a great wrestler, but she's not battle-hardened. She hasn't been around it long enough to be pissed off or get pissed off or have someone pissed her off. So Wendy Choo came out there and choked her out and made it clear she wanted the North American Championship. And they seem to be trying to keep Tatum and Lola in the mix, and that's fine. Wendy's a great worker. Wendy's always been a great worker. She's had unfortunate injury luck. She's in a good spot. She's the kind of person that is going to make these tryout NIL people better. She's always going to be like that. Now, I'm sure she wants some for herself as well, and she might be in the mix of the North American title. Seems like that's the case. But she's going to be, because she's such a good worker, someone who's she's going to help those people. She's going to help the inexperienced just because of the experience that she has. You know, she worked a pretty damn good match with Mandy for the NXT Championship. She's a big reason that Tiffany was prepared. She had an early feud with Wendy Choo. Karen Q, as people knew her from the Indies. You know, all the different stuff she's done. When it comes down to it and you strip away the gimmick, she can work. She's going to make those people around her better. It's a good opponent for Kalani Jordan. All right, Chase U and Frazier and Axiom. Crowd clearly loves both teams. You know, they've been both around the tag team titles, whether they've been, you know, whether it's Chase U having them or Frazier and Axiom having them, but they've been in the tag team title mix. And it's Ridge trying to prove himself. And, hey, I'm doing this for Chase U. And, sorry, Duke, I'm going to do it. And they seem to try to build that tension. And there's been Duke, Chase U tension from the jump, but they've never pulled the trigger. They've thought about it a couple times. He almost joined Schism. But he's the MVP. They kept him. They were tag champs. Now Ridge and Andre get the shot. And they have a great match. By the way, those Chase U Hoops jerseys, fire, put them out. Put them on Fanatics. Put out all the Chase U merch. Because it's good. It is good. It looks good. It makes them seem even more legit. And they win. And they win with a great back-and-forth match. The crowd's there for all of it. As I said, everybody in that place was at least invested, and the majority of the people love Chase U and love Frazier and Axiom. And Frazier and Axiom have had are they going to break up? Are they going to break up? And there was nothing really at the end. They just lost. Now, there was a massive celebration, as we just saw. You can put the picture up again. This was a massive celebration. And I get it. The Chase U student section's there and all that stuff. Was it warranted? and I say that half jokingly. Because I say that in a way that in kayfabe, in story, you win a championship, it should be a big deal. And Chase U's been about the tag team titles. I'm okay with that. It makes the titles feel bigger. My point is just, you know, the state of tag team wrestling has not been great. In NXT, it probably gets more love than any other company right now. And I jokingly was like, hey, did somebody get the message that I called out tag team wrestling so they made a big deal about the main event? I'm not taking credit for that at all. I'm joking. That's very tongue-in-cheek. But they made it a big deal. And you know what? If you want the tag titles to be a big deal, you do stuff like that. It has been a central storyline. Now, Duke was happy to see them win. That's great. You know, he didn't push. He wasn't like, oh, Ridge did it. Now, we'll see if they build that tension going forward. Here is my one thing, and it has nothing to do with the show last night. Vic's line was, blah, 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 bringing the gold back to campus, and they better prepare the quad. And I heard those lines, and I'm like, and that's why Chase U will never be on Raw or SmackDown, or won't work. It's too goofy. You can't have factions like Judgment Day and Bloodline. And go, well, there's Chase U. Those are the college American-made. The Wyatt Six. I know comedy is good to have some fun, but Chase U's not all about comedy. That's a hard sell for me. And I think it would be a hard sell for talent on Raw and SmackDown to sell for Chase U. Or the idea of they were at college, and now they're here on Raw and SmackDown. In NXT, that works. As I've said, NXT's got that own universe. That's why I compared it to Lucha Underground. It's very much its own thing. But the same reason I don't, who scares you more? Tony D'Angelo's family for maybe doing some stuff where they, hush, hush, wink, wink. We threw somebody in the river. We threw him in the trunk. Or is it Judgment Day laying people out? Is it the Bloodline laying people out? You can't have both. You can't tell me Tony D's disposing of people. And then what? He's not going to try to do that to the Bloodline or what? Chase U, same thing. You're giving heels ammo. You're in college still? What? What do you guys do? How would people not bring that stuff up? I want that to work. I want that to work. I love Chase U. I just think it's a tough thing to get over on Raw and SmackDown. But a good show overall. Now, we got a super chat in there, and I'm going to answer this because I said I would. I'll put it up, Tom. Don't worry about it. Here we go. I got it. Chris Forte, thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much. Hi, Matt. I love the bump with you and Kayla. Do you think your lack of chemistry, in my opinion, with Megan was the reason for your release? I think Mackenzie would have been a better replacement. How diplomatic am I going to be about this one? You're right about the lack of chemistry, 100%. I don't know if that played into it. I know that show doesn't exist, so who knows? That show hasn't been on in, May? Months? I don't know when it's coming back. I don't know if it's coming back. It seems to be out of the way now. The show was not the same without Kayla. 100%. 100%. I'm going to get to this in probably a couple weeks because we're going to probably do some more discussion about my hiring, which is, I know I started 5 years ago next month, probably 3 weeks from now, and I think we'll go into that a little more detail. But Kayla and I hit it off immediately, and Tom Phillips gets a lot of credit for that because he told Kayla, hey, he's going to be helpful. And Kayla trusted Tom and Kayla trusted me, and we hit it off. And that worked. When she left the show to move to LA, I brought this up, I think, yesterday or on Monday with KO. There was the initial thought was she's going to be gone. We need a new host. And I threw some names out. I'll give you a name I threw out. I don't think she was with the company at the time, but she wasn't anywhere else. I don't think that I wanted Billie Kay in the mix. I don't think I've ever said that publicly. It didn't come to fruition. I can't remember that time. That's a couple years ago. I think they were at Impact by that time. But they had brought in Tyler Breeze to do up, down, down stuff, not wrestle, to do stuff for digital. I was like, I'll be the straight guy on the show to Billie Kay. I think it could have worked. I think she would have been hilarious. She's very funny. She's a lovely person. She's got a kid now. She's acting. I'm very happy for her. Those two were both great. Peyton and Billy, Cassie and Jess, whatever you want to call them. I would have, and I didn't push that hard, believe me. And then it was decided that Kayla could still do the show from LA, and that was tough. And I don't blame Kayla for that. She got the A-OK from the very top of the company to go do that. And she did the shows from LA, and that was tough. You had a host on one coast and you host on another coast, and that was the pitch. Hey, we got hosts on both coasts. We're not going to push the show still, but that was the idea. And that's tough when you have studio guests. And then every time, Kayla, why aren't you here? Oh, I'm in LA because I moved here because that's part of the show. And then at some point, she stepped aside. And no, it was never the same. I wanted it to be Jackie. I think that would have worked great. They had bigger plans for Jackie. Jackie was a very busy person when the switch was made because of hockey and covering the NHL for TNT. That was a big deal, as it should have been. She didn't, she was doing both. She still does both. She doesn't have hockey to cover right now, and she got the move to Raw, but Jackie and I hit it off immediately. Jackie was a seasoned pro before she came to WWE. When we did our tests for Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown, which would have been early July of 2019. No, that's wrong. 2021, I'm sorry. 2021. Because the idea was, hey, we're bringing Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown, or whatever the hell, Talking Smack, they changed the name. We're going to take it off the road. And this is the third iteration. The original one was Brian and Renee. It's the best one. You don't have to tell me. That was the best iteration. And then they did it from the Thunderdome. And they had it set up at all times. Now, I will tell you, there is money involved in that set because you're taping it after a show's over. So that means crew's got to stay around. That means the table's got to stay around. Transporting that thing was not easy. So they went, okay, we're going to take it off the road. It's going to become a studio show. So we went from Renee and Brian to basically, and I know there was Kayla and Heyman, to me and Jackie. I knew it was an uphill battle. I had no problem with that. I knew people weren't going to like the show right away. I knew people that were never going to like the show because I wasn't Paul Heyman. Totally self-aware about that. He brings something completely different to the table. Sure, better to the table. He also is allowed to do more. That all plays into it. So Jackie and I knew what we were dealing with. And then Jackie had to deal with some visa issues because she's Canadian about getting hired. So they were like, hey, we're still launching this thing. When we go back on the road, that Texas weekend for Money in the Bank, the year that E and Nikki Cross won and all that stuff, and Cena came back with Roman, we're doing it. So as Jackie was figuring out all her stuff, I did not think I'd be talking about this today. As Jackie was figuring out all her stuff with hiring and all that, and I worked with Kayla. I worked with Scott Stanford. I worked with Rosenberg. I worked with Sam. I worked with Byron. I worked with Mackenzie. I worked with Kevin Patrick, which I was happy to take that on. And I see DNC Digital's here with a question. I'll get to that in a second, but I think you would appreciate this and others who are trying to break into the industry, or if you're in broadcasting, it is good to work with people you don't know or aren't comfortable with, or haven't developed chemistry yet. And sometimes chemistry will come. And sometimes chemistry won't, to answer the original question. But, Kevin Patrick, Kevin Egan now, who's killing it doing MLS stuff. Man, he has found his perfect spot. I'm so happy for him. One of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. What a great... And they were like, hey, he was doing Raw backstage at the time. He wasn't calling the show yet. Can you come do some SmackDown Lowdowns at Matt Camp on Fridays? And we did. And he was a great host. And he would pitch to me. And sometimes I would host, whether it be with Rosenberg or whoever. And everybody, except for one person, that I worked with would listen. And I didn't know everything, and I didn't know, I would listen to Kevin about stuff, and he would listen to me about stuff. People would lean on me for wrestling stuff. Fuck it, we're doing this. I'm going in. Let's go. You're only going to get better if you haven't done something by listening to other people. I would listen. Did I have broadcasting experience for WWE? Yes, I did. 100% I did. But I did radio. I did House of Hardcore Indie Wrestling. I hosted podcasts about fantasy football. I did Busted Open. Great experiences to have. I said when I was doing radio on SiriusXM doing fantasy football stuff, I wasn't good until 5 years after I did it. 10,000 hours, all that stuff. Malcolm Gladwell, not that I read the book, but I know what the thought process is behind that. All of that stuff does get you better. 10 years ago, 7 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to sit here by myself and talk for an hour as I've been doing. But I listened and learned to people who had done it before me, to producers. And you know what? They're willing to help because they are also tied to the success that you have. If the show does well, hey, I produced that show. We're putting out a good product. We get to do more. There were people that produced shows that I was on that moved up in the world. Jackie did a great job on Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown. Once she had, I think, started that October full time. I think we did that draft that year together. And look what happened. She's number one now. There's no doubt about it. She's number one. She's hosting everything. They promote her NHL stuff. She's fucking good at it. She learned, by the way, she got taken off those studio shows to put her on Raw and to become a bigger deal because she's damn good at her job. But you know what? When she couldn't come on to Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown because she's working through visa issues, guess who she was talking to every Monday and Friday? Me. Not for my input. What's going on? What are you guys doing? I'm trying to watch everything to catch up. She had been a wrestling fan. She replaced Renee on Sportsnet. When Renee got hired by WWE, Jackie took her wrestling gigs. And Jackie did plenty of other things there. And then Jackie moved on to NHL. And if you can go back, she's interviewed people at wrestling, and there's a gap because she was doing hockey stuff. She's like, I was never out of it, but I'm not quite as in. So she took that time when she was working through her hiring process to catch up on the product because she gave a shit to get better. She didn't have an ego walking in. She knew, hey, there's ways I can learn and get better. I can learn about wrestling from me. I can talk to the producers who have done this for 25 years. Hey, what is Vince looking for? What is KD looking for? What do we need here? And that's why she's as good as she is. You can be good, but if you're not doing the right things, what the company wants, it doesn't matter. So Jackie and I connected. I loved how hard she worked. The key to being the best. Yes, you have to work hard, but you also have to be good. And there's a lot of people, and this is a sad reality. There's a lot of people that work hard, and unfortunately, maybe they just don't have the natural talent. And you hit a wall. I've hit that in places. You could say I hit that in February. I don't know. And then there's people who are really good and have the personality, but don't want to put the effort in. Those people usually can get by. Those people can kind of sneak through it. You get outed at some point when someone goes, hey, you're good, but you should be better. Jackie worked hard to be better. Kevin Patrick worked hard to be better. Byron Saxton's been doing it for 20 years. What can I do? I'll do it. And he's filled every role. He's been taken off things. He's been put back on things. He's handled big stuff, little stuff. Hey, we need you on Level Up. Nigel's gone and Sudu's gone, and we don't want to fly Matt down there anymore. Okay, I'll do it. Oh, you're also doing SmackDown on Fridays. Okay, I'll do it. Oh, you're on Mondays now. Oh, you were on the Raw commentary team. Now you're on the lowest show we have. Okay, I'll do it. That is an example of someone who gets it and is not out there for themselves because it's not about them. It's not about that. When you're in that role, you are working for the company. You're working, I always said this, to get everybody else over, to present the storylines. You're playing a role. You can have a journalistic background. It doesn't mean you're an actual journalist. You can use those traits, but we're all playing a part of the show. So, to bring it all back around, no, Megan and I did not have chemistry. And the fact that I just said her name for the first time on this show ever should tell you plenty. It didn't work. I tried to help her. She didn't want the help. Shit, I'll go further. Michael Cole was checking in with me on how she was doing. And I would have to tell him, she doesn't really want the help. Now, I'm not there anymore, and she is. So call that for what you will. No, we did not have chemistry. I knew it. And by the way, I tried to help. I wanted her to get better. Initially, she wanted to get better. Hey, you're going to be in town for doing this community event. Why don't you come sit backstage and watch Raw Talk? We'll show you everything we do. Hey, you're still here? Why don't you come sit and stay around for the bump this week? Hey, that would be cool if we put you on the show. And you could do this. And those things happened. And I talked to Cole, and I said, hey, if she wants to keep coming around, I'd be happy to have her around. She could shadow. She could learn from the best in Jackie. We can show her the ropes. It's good to be around these things. And she was into it. And that continued, and I encouraged it. And then they made the call. Megan's the number 2 to Kayla on SmackDown. Jackie's moving. We're going to take Megan off the road. She'll be a Stanford person with me and Ryan. And now she'll be with you on those shows. She's going to be with you on all 3 shows. Okay. I wasn't thrilled because I was losing Kayla, but I got it. We're going to make this work. Let's try hard. And it didn't. It didn't work. And the trying stopped. And the conversations I tried to have to improve things, right there. So, no, we had no chemistry. And that's what happened. You don't always get what you want. You try to make the best of the situation, but I can only help so much. And now that show doesn't exist anymore. So I didn't want to talk about that for the longest time. I'll be straight up with you. Let me add one more thing because it needs to be said. I talked to you about the people that reached out to me when I got let go. People that I didn't talk to on a regular basis. Drew McIntyre. Byron Saxton called me. A lot of, and I don't need to say everybody, but the people I worked with closely who didn't know that it was happening or did know who whatever reached out. People I didn't even like reached out. Kayla and I talked a bunch. I still talk to Jackie all the time. Produce, you name it. People reached out. You know who never said a word to me? Because this needs to be said. Because I'm kind of tired of this shit. Megan never said a word to me. I got let go. That show went on the air Wednesday. And I get it. They don't acknowledge those people. Not a fucking text. Nothing. Nada. So remember that when you help people out. Remember that. I am more than willing to help people out. I love getting questions from people about broadcasting. I love getting emails, and I try to answer as much as I can, whether I know the people, if a friend reaches out to me, whatever it may be. hey, can you talk to this? Hey, you know why? Because I had those questions coming up. I had those people that I could lean on. Hey, can you give me some advice? What am I supposed to do here? That whole thing of like you meet going up, on your way down, you see those same people. I try to remember that. And it's a very, 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 very good thing to remember. And I'm sure this is going to cause some shit on the internet. And I don't really care because I don't work there anymore and I don't talk to her. And she clearly has no interest in talking to me, even though she was given help. And she can deny all this shit and whatever. I don't care. It's the truth. And enough people know that. People I care about know that answer. People she works with know that answer because I said it before I left. And you know what? If you want to connect those dots, I've been trying to do that since February. It's probably true. But I know that I am going to continue to help people that want to put in the effort, that give a shit about trying to be better. I'll always keep doing that. That's not one person who decided to not be appreciative of that is not going to change my ways. And it shouldn't for anybody. I think the world overgeneralizes everything. Happens in sports, happens in politics, happens in the world. I don't think one person ever represents the many all the time. I think sometimes you got to look at that one person. My experience of that company was really good. I liked almost everybody I worked with. And I knew how to handle the ones that maybe I didn't or I didn't get along with or vice versa. And that's okay. I'm all right with that. That's life. You don't become friends with everybody you work with. Sometimes you do, and that's awesome. Sometimes you meet people that stay in your life forever. And sometimes you don't. So yeah, I haven't told that story for a reason because I didn't need to. But sometimes you got to say stuff. So I said it. And that's all the truth. I have no reason to lie about that stuff. It's going to get me nowhere. I'll probably get some shitty messages about all the stuff I just said. I don't care. I'd rather be truthful and sometimes it's good to know the true colors of people. So, there. Thanks for the super chat, Chris. Let's get to some positive ones. DNC's got a couple, and I wasn't trying to ignore you. DNC, let's get to some of these. I'll put them up, Dom. Here we go. In interviewing someone, what's one thing people don't focus on enough and one thing focus on too much? One thing they don't focus on enough is listening. Because, and I have been, once again, here's a good learning experience. You can write questions for interviews. I used to do this. I messed this up on commentary when I did it. All the stuff you can have prepared, right? And you want to get all that stuff in, or you think, I got to get all these notes prepared. I got to get them in. No, that's your backup. You're watching what's happening in front of you, whether it's an interview, whether it's a match. You want to be able to tell the story about what's going on that the crowd's seeing at home, watching on the monitor. If you're having an interview, I said it on Monday. One of my favorite episodes of The Bump is Kevin Owens and Johnny Gargano. We had stuff prepared. I wrote a lot of stuff. Half it didn't get used. And by the way, that happens a lot. It happens on plenty of shows. You want to over-prepare so you're not under-prepared. And that sounds like a cliche, and I understand that. But it's very much like if you need it, you get to it. I was once told this, and here you go. Here's a good example of learning from all your experiences. I interned at NFL Films in 2007 into 2008. I was a production intern. It was a dream job. Here you go. 2007, I wanted to work in NFL Films. I interned there. I never got to work there. But during that time, they had something called Broadcast Boot Camp. And it was the first year they did it. They've done it every year, I think, since then. And they would bring in players who had just retired, players who were close to the end of their career that wanted to get into media. And we see that all the time now. Look at the Kelsey brothers. They're still and that's become more of a thing. Look what Kevin Durant's at, doing it while they're still active. Draymond Green, Micah Parsons on Bleacher Report. I think Mookie Betts has a podcast. I mean, that's cool. But this was a time when, hey, I'd maybe like to get into media. What does it entail? So for 3 days at NFL Films, this is in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, Cherry Hill, about 25 minutes outside of Philadelphia. They had this thing called Broadcast Boot Camp. And for 3 days, they learned every aspect, as much as you can learn, about football broadcasting in 3 days. And NFL brought in Gus Johnson, the famous play-by-play commentator, Gus Johnson, and Kenny Albert. And everybody, all the players that came in, I don't remember the big number, what number it was, 15 guys, whatever it was. They all got to call a quarter of the Super Bowl, pre-taped, with Kenny Albert or Gus Johnson, and then get feedback. They got to sit with James Brown, CBS, used to be on Fox, well-respected Hall of Fame broadcaster, and do a studio segment. They learned about that. We went on a little field trip to Dick's Sporting Goods, and they did on-site interviews. They learned about that. They sat with the top producers from CBS, Fox, ESPN, NBC, and learned what it was like to call a game and put that together. And that brings me to this point, because I like to talk and get on tangents. There is something called the diner menu that football broadcasters use. And the Hall of Fame coach, Dick Vermeil, famously known for winning a Super Bowl with the Rams, he created this as a broadcaster. And what it is, because there's a lot more players in football than there are in other sports, it is basically a sheet that you flip. One side's got one team, one side's got the other. And it's got everybody on there and facts, height, weight, where they went to college, stats, whatever, on everybody. So you're prepared to talk about everybody at any given moment, because people get hurt, or somebody makes a big play, or somebody you never hurt, whatever. Or it's a 40-7 game in the third quarter, and this game's not real interesting. We need more shit to talk about. Well, blah, blah, blah went to Notre Dame, and man, you could tell how smart he is on the field, but he majored in biology, and he actually thought about. You're keeping people invested. It's still entertainment. So you're over-prepared in that way. So when I would do interviews, I would write more than enough that I needed, and we would pare it down. We'd talk to producers, and that was part of the show. And even live on the show, it would get cut down. Because the talent, or whoever you're interviewing, is going to give you more for certain questions than others. And then you listen to that and go, oh, let me follow up. Listening goes a long way. And when you don't listen, it's all connected that way. When you don't listen, I want to go back to that question. One thing people focus on too much. They probably focus on themselves too much. You can be a host of a show or an analyst of a show, but you're on every day. You're on every single day. People know you're on every day, and people tune in for that. But there are people that are coming on to promote, to be a special guest. They're promoting a movie. They're promoting their match in wrestling terms. Maybe it's a special human interest story. Your job there is to set them up. You want to put them, they're a guest on your show. Well, you booked them for a reason. You booked them as an attraction for some reason. They're the star. You play to them. We did an interview once on The Bump. 2019, last episode of the year, and we had Lana on, and Lana was playing, this was leading into the Bobby Lashley stuff, and Lana was, rich and powerful, and everything is great that I have, and, and two of the interviewers, it was Dan and Evan, they're like prodding Lana the whole time, and giving her shit, and she's the heel. And Dan's like, is that a shower curtain behind you? It doesn't really look like a fancy room. And it probably was. But it's not our job to call out the talent for what looks like less than when they're supposed to be playing a rich character. And that was someone trying to get themselves over instead of the talent. Kayla did it. I did it. You eat shit. You have the egg on your face. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. We had JBL and Corbin on the bump. And they were trying to do that gimmick where Corbin was the next wrestler. And they tried and one of the best things that I think actually happened was when they came on the show. And JBL shit on me, and Corbin shit on me, and you're lesser than, and we're bringing them in steak, and their pillow wasn't fluffed up. That's fun as hell. We're having a great time. It's not about me. I should be a punching bag. I should be fodder for them. That's a more fun show. I finished that stuff off. Somebody asked me on my Reddit AMA, who'd you like working with the best? Yeah, KO's on there. New Day's on there. I liked heel Bailey because she would give me endless shit, and it was fun. I liked getting kind of beat up by the Brawling Brutes. I'm the little announcer guy. Yeah, I'm taller than Pete Dunne. Who cares? He can kick my ass. He hit me by mistake, and I fell over on the chair. When you're interviewing, it's not about you. You want to have credibility. That's important. But it's not about you. And when you're calling a match, it's not about getting yourself over. And people will do that at times. That's not your job, especially not in wrestling. All right, one more here from DNC Digital. I know we're going long, but you guys got me going a little bit today. I have some commentary experience. I want to start doing more. Did you do highlight reels, send out to promotions? I want to do this right. Yes. And I will say, and DNC Digital, keep pounding the pavement with that. Whatever you got to do, get your stuff out there. It's not easy. My experience with that was networking. I did not try to meet Tommy Dreamer to become his play-by-play guy at House of Hardcore when Vic got hired by WWE. That was not my plan. I wanted to have Tommy on my fantasy football show because he was someone I liked talking to, and I knew he liked fantasy, and I learned a lot that wrestlers don't want to talk about wrestling all the time, but if you find something they're passionate about, you're going to get a lot more out of them. And I got better interviews that way on my shows. And then Tommy and I became friends. And then Tommy, and I saw the announcement. I remember when Mike Johnson published it on PW Insider. I still remember the very long post of Vic Travagliante getting hired by WWE. And my first thought was, well, there's an opening now at House of Hardcore. And I thought about reaching out to Tommy. And he texted me, and he said two things. Well, he goes, hey, I'm trying to do more radio. Should I get a radio agent? I was like, well, that's tough. He goes, also, would you like to be my new host for House of Hardcore? And I had never done play-by-play before. So there, DNC Digital, to your question, I had experience. I had broadcasting experience. I had wrestling knowledge. Yes, I would love to have done play-by-play. I didn't think it was in the cards for me. But I knew I could do it if I was given the opportunity, and I knew I was going to work hard at it. Tommy knew me enough and said, you can do this. And you know what? I sucked. I don't think I was good for most of that run because I hadn't done it before. I got better. I learned. I listened. I listened to Tommy. Here's a little fun fact. I got notes via Tommy from Joey Styles. Tommy had Joey look at some of my stuff. He's too newsy. Okay, that's a good piece. I appreciate that feedback. Joey fucking Styles, absolutely. And I changed my ways. There was a show where we didn't have monitors or something went down. And Bubba was backstage and he's going, stand on the chair. Stand on the chair. You could see it. And I went, because we were away from the ring. And I went, oh, okay. And once again, I know not everybody agrees with stuff he says. He says some things that make sense if you parse it out sometimes. I listened to people who did it longer than me, who had that experience. I sat with Danny Doring, who had called some shows, and he goes, God, I'll follow your lead. You've done this. I go, yeah, but you're the wrestler. I learned, and you probably hear these stories all the time from old wrestlers. I learned from traveling to towns with Danny Doring. about wrestling, about why stuff happens. I learned about getting people over and presenting the show in a certain way. One of the toughest things you're going to do when you're in entertainment or sports entertainment or whatever you want to call it is present bad product and have to make it look good. I called plenty of bad indie wrestling matches. The easy stuff is when it's over and good and working. That's the easy job. I've talked about how I thought Adnan Virk got put in an absolutely no-win situation when they stupidly fired Tom Phillips and put him in that spot. And I listen, I have mutual friends with him. I don't know him, but he got put in there as somewhat of a wrestling fan on Monday Night Raw with no experience during the Thunderdome. Good luck. One of the worst creative times in the company for reasons that were within their control and without their control. And they were like, hey, go call empty arena wrestling when you've never done it before at any level. Good luck, dude. It didn't work. And he moved on and he'll be okay. And they brought Jimmy Smith in and he was better. I'm going to guess there's a reason we haven't seen Joe Tessitore yet. Unbelievable experience. A massive wrestling fan. Has called some of the biggest events in the world for the biggest companies in the world. They didn't put him out there right away. I'm sure he's learning. I'm sure he's putting in the work. It is such a different and tough job calling wrestling because you're not supposed to call the moves. It's not watching Sunday Night Football and, Mahomes back to pass, rolls out right, and he's taking off down the field. Here we go, down to the 30. Unbelievable. He picks up 40 yards on a third. And it's not that. You have to tell stories in between. You have to have Collinsworth get on there and go, look here, look at the right tackle. Now he goes, okay, let's put some people over because that's what he's doing, right? Well, Patrick Mahomes was able to get out to the right side because the right tackle picked up this rushing linebacker, and then the fullback was able to pick up this guy here, and this wide receiver broke off his route and was able to get a block. Well, now I'm being told the story. It's still sports, but you're still trying to tell the full story. Now, you've put a couple people over. Oh, that guy's pretty good. It's not just about Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he gets all the endorsements and the money. But now we've told that story. But in wrestling, you have to tell a story of what's going on in the ring while talking about stuff that's coming up, while talking about character motivations, and you might have one person to pitch to who's a babyface color guy, and you might have a heel color guy you also have to pitch to, and you have to get both of their opinions in, and then you have to keep the show on the tracks, and you have to get to the next. Holy hell. That's a lot of shit. DNC asked if I was ever approached for commentary in WWE. I asked to do commentary. I had been, at that point, had done the bump, Raw Talk, SmackDown, Lowdown. I was moved over to the announce team, as in Michael Cole was my boss. So I was on the digital team. I had a digital boss that was my contact or whatever. And then when I got SmackDown, Lowdown, and Raw Talk, Cole became my boss. I had a different contract, all that different stuff. And after we were doing reviews in February, and I got, I talked to him, and it was all positive, and, you're doing a great job, and I never have to worry. It was all, which is admittedly why this past February took me by surprise, because I had never heard a single, and I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass, I promise. I never heard a bad thing that I did. No one ever told me I did anything wrong or I wasn't doing a good job. Not once. And I know I was under the radar a little bit because I wasn't on the road. I get that. But Cole was always very happy with me. So I asked him, I said, hey, listen, I would like to learn commentary. I want to add more to my tool. I always add, we had to do something. I don't even know if they do this anymore. Do they? They probably don't. I'm sure I'll get a text from somebody that will tell me that they do or don't. But when you would have your review period as an employee, because I was an employee, I was an independent contractor, and then I became an employee. you had to set goals. Hey, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'd like to, be on the kickoff panel, and I would like to learn commentary. And I told Cole that, and he had my review, and he goes, oh my God. He goes, that'd be a great idea. I said, whatever you want me to do, however I need to learn, what if I got to put in extra time, you let me know. And he said, let's do that. And then I think within like 2 months, I said, hey, could I go down? He's like, we'll get you down to Florida. And there was a announcer seminar. Cole got all the announcers, just about everybody. And a lot of them were based in Florida. And we were at NXT for a couple days. And he took me in a room with Sudu, who was calling NXT, calling Level Up at the time, and Vic. And it was, hey, we're sending Nigel over to the UK for this week. He can't do Level Up. You're doing it. Okay. And I literally called a match on a computer with Sudu. I did color. I did play-by-play. I realized when I was there I would be better at color, but I also was like, hey, whatever you need. And a few weeks later, I got brought, and I did color commentary for Level Up, and it was one of the most invigorating experiences of my entire broadcasting life. And we were going back down again for something. I think we did like a bump from down there, and I said, hey, can I go down again? Oh yeah, we'll do a 3-man booth with you and Nigel and Sudu. Okay. And then it became, can I go down once a month? Yes. Yes, you can. And I would fly down Monday. I would do Raw Talk until 11:35, and I would get on the first flight out from, I want to say LaGuardia or JFK. LaGuardia. And I would fly to Orlando on Tuesday morning. And I would take part in everything I need to take part in and prepare for the show and watch how Vic prepped and how Wade prepped and, all that stuff and what goes into a day of TV. I got to be part of all that stuff. And then I would go out and I would call Level Up. And as soon as Level Up ended, I had an Uber to the airport to get on a plane to fly back up to the Stanford area, get in at God knows what hour, because I had to be live on the bump on Wednesday mornings. And I would do that once a month. And there was a time when I did that. I had about a 5 or 6 hour delay. I got back at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., something ridiculous like that. We had Randy Orton on the next day. It was a massive interview, and he got the wrong time. It was on Central Time, and I had to filibuster for about 45 minutes because we didn't have Randy. And he came on for the last 10 minutes, and I get told we're going to tape with him for longer. So on about 3 or 4 hours sleep, maybe, if that, after calling the show the night before, I went on the fly for 45 minutes of an hour show and just made it up and talked through it. And we had Riddle on, and then we had Randy on, and then we did about 45 minutes with Randy. And I felt like Frank the Tank coming out of the debate thing. I blacked out what happened. And it was I was like, let's do it again. You need me to fill? That's fun. I can do that. That's a way to get better. Go out there without a net. Shit goes wrong. How do you fix it? I watched some broadcaster on ESPN. I can't believe I'm still talking an hour 35, but this is going into a whole different thing. I watched a broadcaster do SportsCenter the other day. I can't remember her name. I'm sorry about this. My good friend Steven Nelson, who's calling stuff for the Dodgers and doing some SportsCenter stuff himself. I think he put it out there. There was an earthquake in California the other day, and she is live on the air, and she's talking. She's doing an interview. She's got her paper. She's talking to a video wall, and the camera shakes. And live on the air, she goes, okay, clearly something's happened here, and is everybody okay? And she checks with the camera people by name. Okay, it seems like we're good. And she went right on with it. And listen, that's not the requirement of the job. If they shut the broadcast down there, right there and then, of course, there was an earthquake. And she handled it. And I was like, damn, that was good. Be over-prepared because you don't know when that kind of stuff is going to happen. I think I covered everybody's stuff. There was one more. I think, Nerd Dude, I'll put that up. I speak for everyone here. The amazing job. I appreciate it as a human being. Nerdy dude. First of all, thank you. You're an awesome human being for everything you've given to this channel, to me, and to the people that are on it and that want to be part of this community. I want to foster that. I want to foster good people, and I think we're trying to do that here. And I want to be a good person more than anything else. I want to be a good, almost husband. I've been talking a lot, sorry. I want to be a good dad and all the stuff of my family, son, brother, whatever. And then I'll be good at work. And I will 100% tell you I miss the mark on that at times. And put the wrong things first. But I want to be a good person first. I can lay on the pillow being a good person. I can say all the stuff I said on today's show knowing that I want to be a good person first and foremost. So I'm glad that you see it and I see in other people. That's what I look for in people. I'm also going to be more willing to help those people. Be good and be appreciative. Have conversations with people not because you're trying to network. Have conversations with people because you genuinely want to get to know them. Because you're interested in their job, not because you're interested in them getting you a job. Because I can see that through that. And I've had those conversations with people. I can give them all the advice in the world. Yeah, but can you help me? Well, I could help you if you did some of those things I said and maybe tried some things out. You don't just get a job. So being a good person will take you. You still got to have talent. You still got to work hard. People are going to be willing, hopefully, and I know it's not like the case in everything. I'm on Twitter. I see all the crap that gets said about all kinds of things, sports, politics, whatever. But being a good person usually shines through in the end. And I think those are the people that hopefully feel best about themselves. So if that's coming across here on this show, I'm glad. And I'm glad to have people like you, Nerdy Dude, and so many others here that like to be part of this because it's fun. So, should I talk about AEW? I'm going to do that. Okay? I'm going to do that because I think maybe this is all part of it. That it's why I root for my friends in WWE to do well. It's why I root for all the companies to do well because I have friends in a lot of those places. Still do. Great friends. You know, as I said, people are going to be at my wedding or in multiple companies. I root for all that. I root for WWE to have record business because it's good across the board. It's good for the people that work there on screen. It's good for the wrestlers that have been busting their ass and should make more money. I'm happy to see someone like a Chad Gable get a new contract. Yeah, Randy Orton earns a new deal. I get that, but and he earned it, believe me. But it's nice to see some of those people that you wondered about, and then go, oh, they signed a new 3-year deal. Hell yeah, let's go. I'll give you an example. I talked about that stuff with Cole Wright, panels and stuff I wanted to be on. My goal was to be on site for a kickoff panel. I had never done that. I had been part of the kickoff show or countdown, or whatever they call it now, as a correspondent. Awesome. Never expected to do that. Got to do that multiple times. I had done the panels for NXT. I had done the overseas panels from Stanford. But a goal of mine was to be on the panels at the Premium Live events. And I think they've gotten it to where it should be. I think Wade Barrett's a fucking star. I watched him work in NXT. I watched him start a new career. I watched him ask questions and learn and not rest on the fact that he looked and sounded like that and could probably get by on just being Wade Barrett because he's really good at being Wade Barrett. But he wanted to learn and get better. And then he got to work with Michael Cole, and now he's working with Corey. And they're putting him on the panel. And they're having him do stuff with Drew. And they're having him call out the bad questions. And you know what? He's exactly where he belongs. I'm happy to see my good friend Big E on that panel, being a wonderful voice for the company despite what has happened to him. I'm happy to see Jackie thriving. I like that stuff. I absolutely can take a lot of joy in, even though I wanted to be there. I'm very happy for those people. They deserve to be in those spots, and they're now making a better product as a result of it. I'm happy to see, RJ City do well in AEW. And I probably didn't tell him that enough. I'm happy to see people know how funny and smart and interesting he is. We got a little of that in WWE. He didn't get a full chance to do that. And you know what? Maybe he's better off for it. But I'm happy to see him doing well in AEW. I don't know Lexi Nair at all. I watched her at the beginning of AEW and I was like, ooh. I don't know if she's there. I don't know what's going to happen. She would do those interview segments and they go on the social. And now it's Renee and then her. At least how I see it. And she's gotten better. She's become an asset. And I've never talked to her, but I see somebody who worked hard and put the work in and is now coming out on the other end and is a good contributor to their show. And maybe she'll be hosting more stuff down the road. So you can root for people, even if they're doing the same thing you are. That can be genuine. And it's my lead in here to AEW. Tony Khan, the tweet, imminent. He's talked about this in a few interviews. Imminent major announcements in the history of AEW are coming. And that's going to get the typical reaction of, yeah, well, you say that stuff all the time. And he has said stuff that hasn't been big announcements. And he said stuff that has been big announcements. This is more of kind of the expanded view. This was from a TV Insider interview from this past couple days. It's a very exciting time in AEW for many reasons. We're days away from AEW All In on August 25th. This is the most important, exciting time in AEW's history. In addition to what is happening in the ring, there are so many exciting things happening behind the scenes at AEW right now. We're on the verge of the most important announcements in the history of AEW. There are multiple aspects. The arrival of these announcements is imminent. We have big news that could come at any time. Isn't that the best kind of wrestling surprise when you know something is coming and you want it and it's exciting, but you're not sure when it's going to happen? You have that feeling it's going to happen. In this case, I have more than a feeling, to paraphrase Boston. I have been working on this for a long time. We have a great team here. The future of AEW is very bright. You should be so happy as a wrestling fan to read that. Yes, he's trying to make money. Yes, he wants his company to thrive. Yes, he's a businessman, and his family has made billions of dollars. That guy's happy because his company is going to thrive, and I will tell you from a lot of people who work there, they are very appreciative that that opportunity even exists. And if this is a new TV deal or ways to bring more money into the company, people you know and love in wrestling, or people that you don't know but have been able to help put on wrestling shows that have caused you to have enjoyment watching wrestling, that's good news. Those are good things. We can pick apart booking and all that stuff. That's fine. I'll do that for every show, constructively, whatever. No one should be rooting against that. You want those announcements to come through. You want them to feel big. You don't want to be let down. You don't want to be Dixie Cartered. I have heard from enough people that Tony genuinely cares about those people there. And there are plenty of people in WWE who genuinely care about the people there. And that are, there is a team aspect. You know what I think about family, but there is a team aspect there. Team is different than family. But if we're all working together and making money, and we can help each other make money, that should go a long way. In addition to that, per Sporting News in Australia, it's understood Plans for the company's maiden Australian show are well advanced, with sources confirming AEW Power Brokers have been scouting venues along Australia's east coast. Sydney's Allianz Stadium, Melbourne's Marvel Stadium, and Brisbane's Suncorp Stadium shape as potential landing spots for the historic show, with entertainment company TEG understood to be backing the event. I don't know if those things happen if not for the success that WWE has had overseas, for the success that they have had in getting venues and cities to pay for them to come and bring in revenue. Not everything that WWE is going to do is going to help the rest of the wrestling industry, but things that they do, and sorry for saying do, they do help. There are people in the sports world, in the entertainment world, TV executives that go, man, WWE's hot. Can we get something like that? Yes, you can, sir. Yes, you can, ma'am. Here's the show that on Wednesday nights has been a top 5 show, a top 3 show. That sounds good to have. Wrestling's hot right now. There is a trickle down. When wrestling stinks, there's a trickle down effect with that too. If people are excited about wrestling, and the number one wrestling company is WWE, they might be a little bit more excited to go to the indie show, to go to that stuff. So this is good news. Tonight, Dynamite. Bryan Danielson's getting a good riddance, time of your life, career retrospective video, which should be interesting, as he deserves. We're getting Mercedes and Shida for the TBS title, which on paper is a hell of a match. Bucks and Acclaim for the tag titles happening. See where that goes. Swerve and Yuta, set up last week. Yuta obviously part of Blackpool Combat Club. And Hangman and Jay Lethal, because I think I'm going to guess, we're going to know when Hangman and Jeff Jarrett's happening. Maybe by tonight. And the Mariah May movie and Mina Shirakawa is coming back from Stardom. A lot of good stuff out there right now. This show was probably planned for about 45, 50 minutes, and we are an hour past that. And I thank you guys who have been with me the whole time. I thank those who have given super chats, who opened up the door to some topics that we weren't ready for today. Not prepared to talk about, I guess I would say, but willing to talk about. And that's what those can do. And that's the support that you can bring to this channel. And I really appreciate that. And I've gone long, and I've kept my producer here too long, and I probably kept other people here too long. So with that being said, thank you for being with us. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not a member, please go check it out at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Go join, because you know what's going to happen. Tomorrow, we'll be back to talk about wrestling even more. I'll see you tomorrow, right here at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Wrestling Mat.